You are tuned in to Behind the Dish with John Piper, bringing a unique perspective to the ballpark.
Behind the Dish is sponsored by DBAT. Since 1998, the nation's largest indoor training academy for baseball and softball with almost 50 locations nationwide. If you're looking to improve your game and get to the next level, DBAT provides a quality teaching environment with solid instruction to enhance the baseball experience for players at all levels, from Little League to the pros. Check out dbat.net for baseball and softball products, franchise information, and to find a location near you. In this episode, we talk with someone that is going to provide tremendous insight into the coaching profession. Whether you're a youth coach, a player thinking about getting in the coaching business, or been a coach for 30 years, you will want to stay plugged into this one. I would appreciate it if you can subscribe on iTunes, share the podcast with your baseball and softball communities, and let us know how we're doing by going online, giving the podcast a review. If you really like it, 5-star reviews are always welcome. Today's guest, Jeremy Sheetinger, is in his third year serving as the college division leader for the American Baseball Coaches Association. Sheets is a fellow podcaster and hosts his own show, Calls from the Clubhouse, that airs each and every week. He organizes all the National Barnstormer coaching clinics in an effort to grow the great game of baseball and educate and develop coaches around the country. He joined ABCA after spending 11 years coaching collegiately himself. He also delivers motivational and keynote speaking engagements across the country. Welcome to Behind the Dish, Sheets.
John, thanks for having me on, man. It's always great to jump on a brand new podcast, but more importantly, connect with some loyal ABCA members. So I really appreciate the opportunity to jump on here with you.
Yeah, I'll just tell our audience, it was my first ABCA, so I was blown away. Yeah, I'm fairly new to the baseball business, but I noticed you from afar that very first day. You were doing some of your podcasts live there, and you were walking around greeting people. I'm like, man, who is this guy? Is he the mayor of Indianapolis greeting all these guests?
Yeah, I could mayor of the convention, I guess. It's this the role you play as the face of outreach, and certainly when having a coaching background and coaching for so long and meeting so many different guys, got a lot of guys to connect with. But then through the podcast, through the coaching clinics, through the efforts that we do, you meet so many people. So it is. I feel like an NFL quarterback. My head is on a swivel the entire time for 4 days, but it's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad I got a chance to connect with you.
Yeah.
It's been really cool.
You guys did a great job, and, we're both Kentuckians. I'm not sure how that came up during our initial conversation, but you told me that you were originally from Frankfort, Kentucky. I mentioned I grew up in Lexington, just, I think, 40 minutes down the road. Growing up there, did you ever dream of playing basketball for the Kentucky Wildcats in Rupp Arena?
I'll tell you what, every day of my life, I always tell the story, man. You know that growing up in Kentucky, I was 20 minutes from Rupp Arena's front door. Every kid has a basketball goal. And in my neighborhood, I had the basketball goal. So our court was the home court where everybody played and all the tournaments were held inside the neighborhood. So basketball, as you know, for a Kentuckian is everything. And baseball didn't become – I played wiffle ball and I played some organized baseball, but it wasn't nothing more than a hobby, where basketball was my first love. And then I became, I got 12 years old, had a great Little League coach, and it changed everything. I still love hoops, and I still love basketball, still love UK. But I tell you what, I went to bed many a nights dreaming of how I was going to play in Rupp Arena and don the UK uniform. It just never came to fruition. It wasn't my calling.
Yeah,
they didn't want a chubby white kid on their team.
There was a court next to my house, Sheets, that in Kentucky, we all have basements. I live here in Texas now. I know you're in North Carolina. I don't know if basements are a big deal over there. But, man, basements, we had my next-door neighbor who's now in the horse business. We'll talk about the Kentucky Derby here in a minute. Kenny McPeak, a prominent horse trainer. He had this court behind his house. It was like a driveway that came down behind his house. And we dropped, like you said, we weren't real tall. So we dropped the goal to like 8.5 feet, and we felt like either UK or NBA players. Man, it was like 3-on-3. There was always 3 teams waiting to play. Man, so yeah, the dream was alive, and I was fortunate to attend a lot of, looking back on it, got to see the Admiral David Robinson play way back when he was at Navy, Charles Barkley when he was at Auburn, the big Shaqtus, Shaquille O'Neal when he played at LSU. Now I'm a little younger than those guys, but it was a pretty cool deal to be there in Rupp Arena with 23,000 other people. Before all the cable networks and everything, you had really CBS or ABC broadcasting to a live national audience. It would give you chill bumps, that's for sure.
Kaywood Ledford put me to bed so many times on 93.9 listening to UK games going to sleep. I mean, it was just that was, if you couldn't see it on TV, you listened to it on the radio, and it's just a different dynamic. Even I'm right in the heart of North Carolina, Duke, Wake Forest, NC State, ACC sports, and it still doesn't compare to what because there's no pro sports in Kentucky. So, I mean, UK was our pro team, and that's the dynamic that I think a lot of folks can't truly dive into and understand is, and it's a way of life. And God forbid you're a Louisville fan, but if you're one of God's chosen people, you stay on the UK side. And,
be careful now. Be careful. We don't want to alienate any listeners there, Sheets.
I'm just drawing my line in the sand. They know where I'm at, and they can email me and reach out. We can discuss it. I can try to convert them.
Hey, my father-in-law is a Louisville grad. I met my wife at the University of Kentucky, so anytime Kentucky and Louisville plays, it's always interesting around our house, that's for sure.
I guarantee it.
Hey, speaking of Kaywood Ledford, it's ironic that you and I are here using our voice to communicate. We were just like that. My grandmother we'd watch it on TV, but turn the volume down on the TV, and that was before 7-second radio delay, so we would listen to Kaywood Ledford, longtime voice of the Kentucky Wildcats. And, man, it was just the way he articulated and described, whether it be basketball or, other sports he did, was just phenomenal. True legend in radio broadcasting.
There's no doubt.
Well, hey, man, growing up in Kentucky, we had 4 distinct seasons. Winters weren't too awful. About every 4 or 5 years we get a pretty bad winter. Very cold spring, sometimes snow still on the ground when baseball season started. As a player, coach, and talking to other coaches in those colder climates, do you think it's a big disadvantage for players in cold weather states?
I think it's a matter of perspective. I think that if you can get creative inside of closed spaces or indoor opportunities, I just think if you get creative, man, you can really – nothing is ever going to take away the fact of being on field, hitting BP and seeing where it drops, and for an outfielder getting live reads off the bat, for an infielder getting live reads on a grass skin. And I mean, you can't replicate that. But I know as a coach, when I look back at what we did indoor training wise, we certainly could have taken it and gone from a 5 to a 10. We didn't, at that time, it was more about just easy front toss, let's groove a swing, here's some tee work, here's a couple drills. We didn't have machines, anything like that, especially in the small schools that I coached at. But I've seen some schools, one in particular, Lewis Clark State out in Lewiston, Idaho, and they have a great indoor facility. It's about 3-4 cages across, and they'll take that machine and coaches around the country are doing this. They're getting creative with building boxes that the machines can sit on so it replicates where it would be at in a pitcher's hand 6 inches away and what that downward look would look like, and they're amping up the machine to as tough as you can make it, an 88-mile-an-hour slider. I mean, you're probably not going to see that in the game. But if you can hit an 88-mile-an-hour slider and that doesn't scare you, then the 78-mile-an-hour one doesn't either. And so I think there's ways that if you're forced inside, you can get super creative and try to create elements that are maybe a little bit past what you'll see in a game and make that a little more competitive. The other part of it, too, I've got a great friend, Kai Carrera, who's now with the Indians, used to be in northern Colorado, and they have an indoor facility as well that was more of a closed square that they could pull out a couple of cages. They would push the cages back so you could still get in defensive work. So he had his infielders working on all their four corner stuff, their feeds, their double play feeds, playing wall ball off the wall, working on glove work. And I think sometimes we see an indoor facility and we just think, man, we're going to hit. When if you do have a brick wall or you do need to put up a pad, whatever it might be, then you can still get in defensive work and you can make those everyday fundamentals. So I think we just think creatively, think a little bit outside the box, try to bring as much of the outside into the inside as you can. I think you can try to create somewhat of a level playing field, but certainly there's a huge difference between coaching in Maine and coaching in Florida. The geography is not going to go away, but you can do what you can to get creative and really give your team the best advantage.
Yeah, that's a great point, Sheets. From a coaching perspective, it's always tough to sometimes transition from cage work to the ball coming out of a live pitcher's hand. So those are some great points. I know down here in Texas, a lot of the, even at the high school level, a lot of the high schools have 50-yard indoor, they are geared towards football, but it allows the baseball programs to come in there and, like you said, get some field work, get some conditioning done. It even gets a little cold here in North Texas. Man, great points. Sheets, like we talked earlier, Kentucky's known as a basketball state, but you played baseball in high school, and then you were one of the fortunate ones that was able to go on to the University of Charleston and play some college ball. Talk us through leaving that warmth incubator of Central Kentucky and going away to school and playing college ball.
Well, it was interesting leaving Frankfort and Franklin County High School and being – I always tell the story. My nickname in high school was Big Dog. When you're, the 4-hole hitter and you're the big guy on campus and the prom king and all that stuff, like I was Big Dog. And then I got to the University of Charleston, and that was my first intro into the fact that anybody that goes and plays college baseball, it doesn't matter if you're on the team that plays on television or just a team that rides on buses. Usually every guy on that team was someone else's 3-hole, 4-hole, or 5-hole hitter. And that's just reality. And I didn't realize that walking in. I thought, well, man, I was, King Kong back in high school. I'm just going to be that here in college. And I got humbled really quickly. And I got around some guys, and certainly as an 18-year-old, I got around some 22-year-olds that had some experience and had some perspective, had some man strength, and really got brought down a level. And played my freshman year, redshirted my sophomore year, blew out my labrum, got hurt, and it was the first time I'd really dealt with adversity. And it was certainly the first time I'd ever been injured and not playing. And I didn't handle it very well looking back. I certainly wasn't a great teammate at that time. But then I decided to transfer out. It just wasn't the right fit for me as a person, as a player. And I transferred out. I went to Kentucky Wesleyan College down in Owensboro, a little bit closer to home. And going to be back in the Bluegrass State. And I got a great opportunity to finish out my career. My shoulder never recovered. My labrum is still tore to shreds. But it gave me a chance to be a team captain for 3 years, gave me a chance to be a leader. I didn't go out and play summer baseball. I actually coached during my summer, so I knew that I wanted to get into coaching post-graduation. So I started coaching there. Gave me a real chance to really cut my teeth and get my mind right and see the game a little bit differently as a player, but really looking at it through the eyes of a coach. So that way I could graduate and walk right into a coaching job and feel like I at least had my feet underneath me a little bit. I still didn't. Still had a lot to learn. But I treated that situation a little bit differently. And I go back to, if there's a high school player listening to this, you're going to get humbled very quickly. We were talking about Matt Daggs a little bit yesterday. Two types of people in this world, those who are humble and those who are about to be. And I certainly needed to get humbled where I was walking into college baseball. And it did that throughout my 5 years in college. But it's definitely a lesson to be learned that you've got to keep working. It doesn't get any easier. A lot of times in high school baseball, we get by on talent, and you're just more mature, you're just bigger, you're just stronger. College baseball is a heck of a lot different. It is bigger, faster, stronger, and you got to work at it every day. And but I'm glad I have that perspective now that I could offer it back to someone, hopefully change their path.
That's a great point, Sheets. And it's very rare for whatever sport a young man or woman pursues to really make a living playing professionally. So great points in having, that backup plan or at least retreating and going in a different direction. Alex Bregman plays for the Houston Astros, played at LSU. He was just in town, the opener against the Texas Rangers. And there's stories of him calling the trainers at 2 a.m., equipment managers to go hit, and having that work ethic. And like I said, even as talented as he was and is, just to outwork and out-hustle, whether it's on the field or off the field in coaching. I hear stories of, coaches 16, 17, 18-hour days. I know you've lived some of those, just the commitment it takes to be successful.
Well, I'll say another side of that, John, that I think is equally as important is, as you alluded to when you got going there, was having a plan B. And, again, I go back, plan A was I was going to walk in here for 4 years, and I was going to start every game, and I was going to set career records. I was going to be a, 4-time All-Conference, 4-time All-American, all that stuff. And
the big dog.
Hey, playing